Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our dog Q&A number 7 this week. And we have Patricia with us, who has a husky mix named Sophi. And I'm going to bring up a picture of Sophi here. Let's test my technical ability here. There she is, cute as a button. And we all the husky owners out there know that we get these dogs for a reason because they are a blast. So much personality packed. Even her face makes me laugh. The personality in a husky is unmatched by any other breed, but they are a pain in the butt sometimes. It's almost like they know too much. So I'll go ahead and take Sophi off so we can see Patricia. And then Patricia, why don't you tell us what is going on with Sophi?
Okay, well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Huskies are a very, very different breed. We had a golden retriever for about 14 years before, and he had to be put down, and we missed having a dog so much, and we all decided we loved huskies. So we got Sophi, but boy, she is really different from my golden retriever. So the main issue with her right now involves sort of coming in and out of the house. She's not a very well-trained dog, and that's kind of our fault, but she does have a lot of personality. So the main problem is that we don't have any kind of doggy door or place we could have one, and she likes to go outside in the back. We have a fully fenced yard, and she likes to go hang out by herself out in the back. And so all day long, she is coming in and out of our sliding glass door, and we have to, let her in and out. And the problem is we don't have a system for that. So when she wants to go outside, she's pretty good. She'll sit by the door and kind of whine. It's so interesting because huskies really, we didn't know this, don't really bark. So she just sits by the door to go out and whines, and that's okay. She gets our attention, we let her out. But when she wants to come back in, it's been a combination of chewing our wood out on our deck, where the door goes out, or just jumping and hurling herself against the glass door over and over until we let her in. And it's hard. And she's like 75 pounds. She's a pretty big dog. She's a little under 3, but she keeps growing. So she just hurls herself against the door out on the outside, or she scratches, and she's completely scratched off all the paint on the outside of the sliding door until we let her in. And it's kind of hard because even though these days during COVID, we're home, most of the time, we're doing Zoom calls. It's my 2 college sons are here with me right now. We're doing Zoom calls, we're doing other things. So she's ruined the entire side door. So that's the sort of general problem. And then at night, it gets worse. When we're in the living room watching TV, she wants to go out, and then 2 minutes later, she wants to come in, and she wants to go out, and all that. We can't leave the door open, partially because we have 2 cats that we can't let outside because of, coyotes and all that in our area. And we get, bugs and things coming in. Mm-hmm. We can't figure out a solution, but it's just all day long. And then at night, we're, getting up every 5 minutes, let her out, let her in. And we just don't know what to do. We can't think of a system, and she's, mm-hmm. It's just not working. Mm-hmm. It's really aggravating, and we get annoyed. So
yeah, that's definitely a lot of moving pieces. And now we're mm-hmm. all in our own little powder kegs here, with everyone forced into one place. Animals, right. People, just
right.
do this.
Yeah.
So one thing I think, well, why don't you tell me a little more about Sophi, how old she is, how long you've had her, that kind of thing.
So we got her about 2 years ago, and she was 8 months old. She was a rescue dog. We got her from a very nice rescue group that rescues huskies. Um, and when we met you around the time we got Sophie, she was not socialized at all with other dogs. And so she didn't know how to play with them and how to greet them and all that. She had been rescued from a backyard where there were dozens and dozens of dogs just together in this yard. So she and some of her siblings were rescued. So we tried to work. You helped us a bit with the socialization, and she got much better about that. We can send her to a great kennel. She has fun. So that's worked out better.
Good.
She's fine on walks. She's very, she gets a little anxious, but she doesn't bark at other dogs, and she's pretty good. So she's about 2 years 9 months or so right now, and she's very independent. She's not she's a lot of fun. She's very quirky and funny. She's not like our golden retriever. She doesn't seem to care a lot what we do. she's much more of sort of a independent, quirky character who thinks we're here to serve her, I think. She's a lovely dog. She loves belly rubs. She, all that. We love her, but she's definitely like not as concerned with our what we do. If that makes sense.
Was your golden a male?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He was a male. He was just loving, calm, followed us around, only wanted to please us. And Sophie makes us laugh because yes, she's a female, which I didn't. I mean, is there a big difference between males and females generally, aside from what species they are?
Yeah, in general, females tend to be more independent. And I always say, when we had our other female dog and our male dog, they were husky mixes. We'd come home, Maddie would be on the floor sleeping. She'd look, oh, it's you. Hi. And then back to sleep. Sammy is at the door. His whole body's wagging. He's like, oh, you're going in there now? I'll be with you. Okay, you're going in here now? I'll be there too. And Maddie's like, I'm in here if you want to come see me. So it's not across the board, of course, but that is in general how it tends to be. Boys are like the Velcro dogs a little more. And then add to that the husky, who is already the most independent dog. So now you've got a whole new ball game on your hands.
Right.
Male golden retriever versus female husky.
That it kind of explains it. I don't think we quite realize, but we do. We do love the quirkiness and the independence. It's just she's hard to train. She really, she just doesn't. She kind of wants to do what she wants to do. But most of the time, we're fine with her in terms of walking and taking her places. It's just this issue, and she's really pretty destructive. I mean, she chews a lot of stuff outside. Mm-hmm. So I guess one thing I was wondering is, is it okay to let her just go hang out outside? I mean, I assume that that's fine. The only problem is that she is, chewing things, but, she's gotten better about that. Is there any reason she shouldn't be just kind of going in and out on her own schedule?
Well, for me, nothing is black and white. So I try to work with what fits with your life. And, how much do you want to put up with and how much work do you want to put in versus letting her do her thing? One thing to also consider is she's a puppy. Huskies tend to stay puppies my 13-year-old dog is still going on walks, bouncing around. He got the puppy crazies the other day, although it's a little slower than it used to be. So they tend to keep that puppiness for so long. And so a lot of those things like destruction, digging holes in the yard, you name it, eating all the plants, digging up the sprinklers. Those tend
Yeah.
to go on for a few years with the husky. Now, around 3, you may see that start to diminish, hopefully.
Mm, okay.
That's when dogs sort of hit maturity, most dogs.
Okay.
For larger breeds, it's sooner, that kind of thing. But
Mm,
for them, that's about the age. You'll see changes happening. You maybe at a year saw a lot of those adolescent things starting to go away a little bit. So then
mm.
she's like still energetic and doing crazy things, but seems a little more mature somehow. I
Mhm.
don't know
Yes.
if you
Right.
noticed
No,
that.
yes. Yeah. She
So,
definitely.
you've got an age factor against you also. But, you're not at 8 months anymore, so that's good.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So the first thing I look at is exercise. So
Mhm.
mental and physical exercise. How much physical exercise is she getting? Do you guys walk her? Do you?
We walk her every day, but only once a day. And I've kind of wondered if that's not enough for her. We walk her once a day, anywhere from, 30 minutes to an hour. We were taking her on, good long hikes in our hills, but the trails were closed because of COVID. But so we'd like to get back to that because she loved that sort of 1.5 hour vigorous hike. So
Yeah.
we've been, we I would say between 30 minutes and an hour a day, which I
Okay.
feel maybe isn't enough, but I don't know.
Did you notice after her hikes that she was a little calmer, at least
Well,
for a
this
while?
The strange thing is that when we take her on, a long walk or a hike, she comes back even more
Mm,
sort of hyper, which is really weird. We think it's going to tire her out, but for some
mhm.
reason it makes her more excited, at least for a while. And it never really changes the nighttime routine of going in and out of the door constantly. So even if she gets a lot of exercise in a day, it doesn't really change that behavior.
Okay. And that's why I ask, because sometimes it kind of works against you. When our female husky was a puppy, we would put this backpack on her and do these super long walks. And we found that it built her endurance. Then we kept having to go longer and longer. So I think it makes them excited. It feeds their energy. It probably helps, on the other side too. But I think there's a sweet spot in there where you're not going to make her more wild by giving her too much.
Right, right.
So, yeah, maybe doing, and I'm wondering if you did an evening walk, if that would help maybe take the edge off of that, constant need to go in and out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we do actually walk her in the evening these
Oh,
days
okay.
because of the heat. We're not great morning people, so we tend to walk her at about 6:30 or 7 these days.
Okay.
If we get back to the hiking, we'll do that earlier in the morning, and then maybe we could take her for a regular walk. But we do walk her in the evening about 6:30 or 7, and so that is the routine, and she comes back kind of a bit hyper. Like
Okay.
we always say to her, we just walked you, Sophie. What do now what do you want? Like, but she does get more riled up,
And then,
even with any.
okay, is it after that that she starts her wanting to go in and out or is it related, do you think?
Um, right after the walk, she'll sort of jump around and want to kind of play around in the living room. And then after a few minutes, she'll usually go to sleep. She'll
Okay.
either go to sleep in the house, or often she wants to go out in the backyard and just lay down
Okay.
and sleep. So I would say it's about, maybe um, 8 o'clock at night, around the time we start watching TV,
Mm,
that she suddenly does the in and out, of the house. So there's a gap
mm.
of a couple of hours where she does usually sleep, or she's quiet. And then it's always when we watch TV
Hmm.
that's when she wants to go in and out constantly. I think that's why we notice it, because it's, we take turns. Okay, it's your turn now to
Hmm.
get up and let her in. Or yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's real? Do you think she's anxious at all in her behavior, or is she pretty confident about what she's doing? And
That's a
by,
hard question because she was anxious when we got her. She was
mm,
very anxious around other dogs. I don't know if you remember
yeah,
that, but she didn't know how to greet other dogs. She was very anxious. Now I feel like that she's not so anxious. But I would say there's still an element of that. If someone comes to the house, she's much better. She doesn't, growl and bark, but she gets a little, you can tell she's anxious. If we pass a dog on a walk, she's okay,
mm-hmm,
but she gets kind of bouncy. Um,
mm-hmm.
so I would say she is in general kind of an anxious dog. Um, so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just had a sense that 8 o'clock is about when it starts to get dark.
Hmm.
And dogs, like some dogs become anxious when it gets dark. They can't see as well, there are different sounds, new animals come out. And I just wondered if there was an anxiety in that.
That's really interesting. I had not thought about the angle of it being dark out. That's very interesting. And we actually think that she has maybe some vision issues.
Mm,
Um, she has an entropion, which I'm sure you know about, where her lower eyelid rolls in, and when she closes her eyes, and she's probably going to have surgery soon on that because her eyes are always kind of gunky, and we think it affects her vision.
mhm.
She's got those little eyelashes constantly rubbing on her eyeballs. Excuse me. So there's sometimes on walks where we'll be approaching a trash can, for instance, and she gets kind of anxious, like she thinks it's
Mm,
an animal. So it's interesting to think about I hadn't thought about the dark, but she'll go in the back and it's a little bit dark, and I wonder if she doesn't. Is that possible? Do you think that she's not seeing well, and that combined with the dark scares her?
yeah, I think that
Mm,
could be something because I've noticed with leash reactive dogs who are by nature anxious and fearful of other dogs, and
mm,
that's why they're barking at them. They're
mm,
10 times worse if it's dark and they can't see.
mm.
And vision is definitely, there's something, when dogs feel more vulnerable, they're definitely more anxious, like we are. Like
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
lost your sight today, you'd be a little more anxious,
Yeah.
I know I
Right.
would be.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it, although, so you're putting some of these pieces together because we've worried about her vision enough to, the vet does say she probably does need the surgery to fix those eyelids so that she can, close her eyes without irritation and
Mm,
pain and whatever she has. And that's very interesting because this definitely does start when it's dark. You're
mm.
right. It's definitely, correlated to. I thought it was because we started watching TV, and in her own funny, quirky way, she wants attention, which
And
is
that it could
funny
be
because
that,
she doesn't normally want. I mean, she's
yeah,
not a dog that looks to us for a
right.
lot of attention. But that the vision in the nighttime is an interesting thought. Yeah.
And you could be onto something there too, in that she might be seeking reassurance from you guys if she's more anxious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a
Interesting.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't thought about any of that. That is a really interesting thing. I'd only thought about sort of attention, but not
Mhm.
anxiety. Hmm.
Yeah, so if you find that she's a little more anxious, maybe she just needs something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you keep her inside with you and give her a chew toy, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you feed her a little bit of her meal left over from a
Mm-hmm.
puzzle toy or something, and just keep her a little more occupied That might
Mm-hmm.
help her feel a little more relaxed when it gets dark.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know we're not addressing the whole thing here yet, but one piece
Right.
we can get to.
Yeah. Right. Oh, that makes sense. When she's inside, she does sit on the living room floor next to us, and she does have her chew toys, and she, seems to enjoy that. And then she'll go to sleep for a little while, but then it's always up and running over to the door to go out. Like, even with chew toys, even with some napping, it's still, ends up in the routine of going in and out. So, but interesting. I had the anxiety piece is very interesting.
Yeah, and you guys could maybe start working on trying to change her evening routine when it gets dark instead of letting her go in and out, even though she might feel like that's what she needs to do. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you just keep calling her over and redirecting her to a toy. And then she'll
Mm-hmm.
maybe learn that's her new routine, and then let her out once before bed and then bring her back in, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. What do we do? I mean, I think sometimes the toy, if she wants to go out, if she's decided to go out, the toy may not redirect her.
Mhm.
She'll always go for like a milk bone, or a chewy food item. But then I worry that we would be, sometimes we try to redirect her with like a milk bone or something like that, and I'm worried that she ends up eating too many treats.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's
what would we do if we're trying to redirect her to a chew toy, but she's lost interest in that?
well, and that kind of points you to maybe she's too anxious to chew on her toy. So it
Mm,
kind of gives you a little more insight, maybe. One
yeah.
thing you could do is just put a leash on her and keep her with you, and just keep
Hmm.
her from getting up and moving around and pacing. And because sometimes a leash adds security for a dog. I don't know if
Mm,
you've noticed when you walk her, if you keep your leash shorter, she might feel a little more secure. But if she had a
hmm.
20-foot leash, she might be all over the place and anxious about what was going on.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. But we could do that for sure.
Yeah, and just have everyone in the family do it, and everybody, once it starts to get dark, maybe even a little before she gets to the point of pacing and trying to go
Mhm.
out, you put
Yeah.
the leash on and bring her over with you and just sit down and relax together, and then she's there. And if she
Hmm.
tries to get up and pace, you could tell her no. You could give her a mat or a bed to lay on and just teach her to keep
Hmm.
going back to that, and give her
Hmm.
something else to do, like lay on your bed,
Yeah.
chew on a toy, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could certainly do that. We hadn't been putting the leash on, but that's a good idea. And what about what if we put the leash on though, and she thinks that we're going for a walk because she loves to walk, and when she sees the leash, she does. That's when she's really good. She'll sit down, and it's so funny because she looks like I'm trying to be good. It's like it's so hard for her. She's like like an 11 or 12-year-old trying to be so good. But so if we put the leash on her, I'm a little concerned that she might think, oh, we're going for another walk. Is there a way to avoid that?
No, she can think that.
Mhm. Okay.
And that's
Okay.
okay. And then
All right.
eventually she'll go, oh, we're not going on a walk.
Okay. All
And
right.
you have to think dogs live in the moment.
Yeah.
And, once something passes, they're in a new moment. So
Mhm.
once she
Okay.
realizes this isn't happening, she'll settle down. And it
Okay.
could
All
work to
right.
your advantage that she's so good on the leash, because now she might
Yeah.
just calm down.
Right. Okay. That's a good way to look at it. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you're playing the long game. So you're looking at how do we help her in the long term? She's looking at what can I get right now? And you're like, no,
Mhm.
our way
Yeah.
is better. This will be better for you for your whole life. Yours will
Right.
just be momentary.
Yes, right, exactly. Okay, that makes sense. That's a good idea. That's very manageable,
Yeah.
to try to do that.
And now you'll have this new idea in your head, and you'll be able to watch it again through a new lens and go, oh, we can do this, or we could do this. And
Mhm.
you'll come up
Yeah,
with a whole new plan, and it'll be great.
right. No, that sounds really good. That sounds very good, especially for that evening time.
Okay.
what about the issue of, like, during the day, or if she does go out, how we've always wanted to figure out a way of having her signal that she wants to come in
Mhm.
without, I mean, it's not like she can say, hello, knock on the door, I want to come in. But how can we get her to indicate she wants to come in without jumping and scratching and all that? Because
Yeah,
that's the
so you don't
problem.
want the signal to be body slam the glass.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
um,
it's pretty basic. Yeah.
how about, I mean, here's what it would look like to teach her to do something else. A
Mhm.
lot of people go to like a bell, like you could have her ring a bell.
Mhm.
The way you could do that is to be outside with her, teach
Mhm.
her to ring the bell. As soon as she does it, you open the door, she goes in, she can get a reward. Eventually, going in will be the reward, but for now, it's bell, door opens, reward is inside.
Okay.
Then you also have to apply the management side, which is she doesn't get to be out alone anymore, or she's going to body slam the glass and scratch the door and chew up something. And then she's going to learn her previous behavior, which has already
Mhm.
been reinforced. So
Yeah.
we have to stop that thing and apply the new thing only. So,
Okay.
you have to decide, are we willing to go through this process? And it's,
Mhm.
it usually it's about 3 weeks of a new thing before they start to really catch on.
Okay.
Dogs have a rule of threes: 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years in
Mm.
adapting to things. You think they're mature at 3 years. They
Yeah.
adapt to a new home in around 3 months. It's always threes. So
Okay.
it would be a good
Okay.
month of working
Mm.
diligently on this thing. And,
Mhm.
maybe your incentive is not to have your house destroyed. And that's a big one.
Right, right. Yeah. True. Or destroyed even more, we should say,
Right,
because
right.
she has really destroyed the glass door. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Okay.
they're a very foot and mouth dog. They use their feet and their mouth and do whatever they need to do. They'll open gates, they will. And I've seen
Mhm.
them use their paws to open doors or use their teeth to turn the knob.
Mhm.
That's just how they kind of interact with the world.
Right.
So
Right.
we've got this genetic component there too.
Yes. Yeah. Right. She's actually doing it right now. I
Oh,
don't know if you want me to turn the computer. Would that
sure.
be
If you
helpful? Or
if you want
let,
to show it,
let's see
sure.
if I can, let's just see if I can do it.
Okay.
You see
There
her?
she.
She she's see, now she sees me looking at her, so she
Mhm.
stops. Oh, there she
Yeah.
goes. You see? And then it's just, on and on. Hopefully
Yes.
one of my
That.
sons will come in, but that's what,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
that's
a
the all day long.
what a perfect picture that was.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
we're getting ready to move, and all of our doors are scratched from as high as she could reach to the bottom.
Mm.
Because that's
Mhm.
how they are, and they interact
Yeah.
with the world that way. And it was not as destructive, and it was very light. And our girl learned to do one scratch, and then we would hurry and let her in before she did 50.
Uh-huh.
So we
Uh-huh.
just managed it that way. Um,
Okay.
our boy is gentle with his foot, and we did the same thing. One scratch, you can come in, or you
Oh,
don't go out right now because I can't manage you.
okay. Yeah. That's really helpful, Tricia, because I hadn't thought about that issue of sort of not letting her out, to avoid that, when every time she wants to. So that's
Yeah, and
helpful.
I think you're doing what most of us do as dog owners, is we want to give in to their every whim
Mhm. Yes,
because
right.
they're so cute and we love these dogs, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's without thinking. You hear the scratch, you're not even thinking, you open the door.
Yeah, right.
We are trained by our dogs to do these things. So
Yes. Right. Yeah. especially Sophie. She's definitely runs the roost around here.
Yeah, and especially when you have one dog, that becomes the sole focus. And now she's learned all I have to do is jump up and look cute, and I get
Yes,
everything I want.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But I think the idea of working on this for like 3 weeks, it's a good time now to do it because we are kind of all at home. So that's why this timing is super helpful, because I think we want to work on this now before everybody goes off and back to our normal lives. So,
Yeah.
so the bell, how does the bell work, and what kind of bell does somebody, how do you put a bell out there? How does that work?
Well, usually you'll hang it on the knob, on the door handle or the doorknob. And the way I've taught it in the past is if a dog's food motivated, I show them a little treat, maybe a little piece of jerky that can stick out of the bell, stick
Mm.
it in halfway, and then they touch the bell with their nose, they pull out the treat. So it becomes a touch the bell, get a treat, touch the bell, get a treat. And then they learn whenever I touch this thing, something great happens. And then you start doing an intermittent reinforcement with the treat. So now we put it in every other time. Or now we don't use the treat and just see if she'll do it anyway. And then give her the treat from your hand. And just try to get her to touch the bell without the treat in it. And then eventually you associate the open door with that. So once she learns to touch the bell with her nose, we get her to do that, open the door, bring her in to get the treat. So then she learns the whole system.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm excited about this because we just couldn't think of anything. It seems so simple to do something like a bell, but we couldn't think of anything to fix this. So this is
good.
really exciting to think about.
Good.
Yeah.
Now I always have a warning when you use a bell. Some dogs become obsessed with ringing the bell because so now instead of scratching the door, she might be ringing the bell 1,000 times. So make sure it's a sound that you like.
We'll try out different bells. Okay.
Ring it 20 times and see if it's annoying.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That sounds good. What if I mean, I hate to go down a different path, but what if the bell doesn't, are there alternatives if the bell doesn't, doesn't work or doesn't interest her, or is there any other way to do it?
Well, like when our female was young, we taught her, she actually showed us, I'm going to tap my nose on the doorknob for when I want out.
Oh.
It was the greatest thing ever. It was just a light. She would tap and then look, I'm ready to go out. And then she did the same thing on the other side, tap and then wait.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
After about 10 years, our male dog taught her, oh no, watch, you can scratch the door. And she's like, what? So she would tap and wait, and if something didn't happen soon enough, she would scratch. So, it was easy for her to learn it in that direction, but going backwards is a lot harder because now she, Sophie knows body slam, scratch, 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 scratch. Now I get to come in. How do you undo that? It's, it's back to the management again. You could teach her to tap on the knob or do something gentle if you can manage her perfectly not to scratch.
Yeah, I don't think that's realistic. I think the bell idea is something that really could work with her potentially. So we'll definitely try that because I think that would be a great solution because it's so hard when we're all home, especially on like Zoom calls and stuff to constantly say, excuse me, I got to let the dog in. And, it just really, so I like that bell idea. That we'll definitely try that.
Yeah. And if you have a Zoom call, maybe don't let her out.
Yeah.
If she can be calm inside.
Yeah. I know. So I think the problem is that we, we're kind of too much at her mercy. in terms of, if she wants to go out, well, then she should be able to go out, instead of managing what she does to sort of suit us more. I think that we're kind of, she's a bit spoiled in that sense that we just, oh, if she wants to go out, she has to go out. So this is a good way of turning that around, to think about putting her on the leash, just making her stay inside. I guess I have a notion that, oh, it's, fresh air and she can entertain herself a little bit. To me, it's like seems like a good solution, but you're right. We should manage it the way we want to. Because I know when I get on a Zoom call, I have to tell my sons every time, watch Sophi, check on her, because she may be jumping on the other glass door. We have two of them actually. And so wherever we are, that's where she's trying to get in. So I like the rethinking in terms of managing for us more.
Well, and you had a male golden retriever who that philosophy worked beautifully for him, because it was like, oh, I'm just going to go out in this wonderful field and enjoy the fresh air and just be this little dog laying in the grass.
Exactly.
Now you have a husky.
I don't think we did our research well enough. Although we love her and we're so happy, we love the husky personality, but I do think that we, I think we should have worked a little more on some of these basic training things, from an early, when we first got her. But the personality is so great. I mean, as much as that golden with Bear, the golden retriever, he just wanted to be where we were. So if I was going to get on a Zoom call, if he was here, he would just be laying at my feet and there'd be no issue. But there is something about this husky personality that it's so mischievous. She's so much to me, like a kind of an early teenage kid, and she's so smart. So I think we are a little bit, as I say, letting her run the roost in terms of catering to her constantly. So I like the idea of thinking about us first.
Yay! Oh, good.
As opposed to the princess, the prima donna first. So that's helpful.
And you only know what you know, and you know golden retriever.
Yes.
And guess what? Now you also know husky.
Mm-hmm.
And what works for golden retriever doesn't necessarily work for husky. And so now you just adapt and pivot and go, oh, wait, huskies, their wonderful world with the field and the flowers is actually structure.
Mm-hmm.
So if we give her that, she's getting that same kind of benefit that your golden had, just being outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
So now you can advise other people who are getting huskies.
Yeah. I know whenever we hear someone say they want a husky, we always say, okay, this is what you got to know. It's a very different kind of dog and really fun, but in a very different way. Mm-hmm. One thing you mentioned that I was curious about is how they use their hands or their legs. That's something that's also very different about Sophi compared to the golden retriever, is that she she uses her paws sort of much more actively than I've ever seen with any dog. Mm-hmm. So if she wants our attention, she just, she'll kind of, not jump on us, but she'll reach out with her paws. And, the door thing, everything is that how they communicate? Even with other dogs, I think when you were working with her, she was sticking her paws out, towards the dogs in a kind of a different way. Is that how huskies communicate?
Yeah, if you, I'll give you some homework. Go online and look at videos of huskies playing together. And that shows you everything you need to know right there. Okay. I've noticed German Shepherds are the same. They use their feet a lot. And you can look at what a dog was bred to do and and see what they need to survive in that environment. And so you think of like a really cold environment with snow, I've seen them jump up and down. Even my girl did this when we found a hole with groundhogs. or what were they? Some little rodent, I can't remember. She jumped up and punched the ground with both feet, just like you would see like a wolf doing in the Arctic, or a husky, in the snow. Same
Mm-hmm.
behavior. And it's just in
Interesting. And
there
that's
that,
what Sophi does. Yeah.
yeah. So look at
Interesting.
huskies playing and you'll go, oh, okay. This is what they're
Yeah.
doing. It's just their
Yeah.
their hands are really like hands sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really fully understand, the sort of hereditary aspect, genetic aspect of that, but it's very cute, but it's, sometimes, because she's a big dog, sometimes she'll basically just reach out at us and, she's got big, long legs and big paws. So
Mhm.
interesting. That's, yeah.
Yeah, our male has an iron foot, we call it. When he wants something, and it's not often, he'll come up
Yeah.
and take that foot in an iron claw and just put it on you. I'm like, okay, Sammy wants something.
Well, that's a better way to communicate than other options, right?
Yes.
I mean,
So that's
I
right.
kind of like it, except that sometimes it scratches,
Mhm.
like she's got sharp claws sometimes. So I just think it's so interesting that behavior is so different,
Mhm.
way they communicate. And she does that when she meets other dogs, is she kind of gets down and, kind of bounces with her front
Mm.
paws,
Mhm.
which I think was, considered kind of a problem when we first got her, but she seems okay. Like she's a little better about greeting other dogs now.
Yeah, and
But
all dogs have their own play styles, and she'll probably find
yeah,
some that do the similar thing, and they'll understand her. You know.
yeah, yeah. One other question I had, I'm not sure where we are on time, but
You're fine.
okay. One other question is that, when we first got her, she was sitting outside waiting to be let in, or just bored and not asking to come in. She was chewing the wood, sort of
Mm.
railings around this little deck on the side. And she seems to have stopped that, which I do think,
Okay.
I do notice a little more maturity on that. I don't
Mm.
see her chewing it up. So, but I was curious, if we see her doing it again, is there anything that works? I did try some kind of bitter apple spray and it didn't seem to work, but is there something we can put on those, wooden slats on the deck to make her stop chewing, make it, taste bad, in case we're not watching her, or, we're not realizing she's doing that?
Yeah, you could try, maybe do a search for natural anti-chewing deterrents, or chewing deterrents for dogs that are natural.
Okay.
Some people have used cayenne pepper for things, just something.
Mhm.
I tried bitter apple with our female husky and she loved it. So
Okay.
I,
Okay.
every dog has their own taste.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
find bitter apple works for about a third or a half the
Mhm.
dogs. So
Oh, okay.
sometimes you can spray it right in their mouth, but I always say you may want to make sure you have a good relationship with your dog and that that's not going to destroy it. And
Yeah.
it's that's good for maybe a very hard temperamented dog who's not going to care that you just did that. But
Mhm.
for a
Yeah.
lot of dogs, that could ruin your relationship a little bit. So
Yeah. That seems a little harsh, but
yeah,
so maybe just try something other than the bitter apple, because that didn't stop her.
yeah,
So
maybe vinegar. That's a strong smell, but
okay.
some dogs might like it. So
Yeah, right, right. As I said, though, that is one area where she seems to have matured a little bit. So she sits out there sometimes and, doesn't seem to chew anymore. We're not going to get it fixed yet, because
good.
I don't quite trust her to, not resume that, but she's definitely, we do see signs of that kind of a little bit of maturity in terms of the backyard. She's kind of stopped chewing things up. So really, that's why this one issue of scratching the door and hurling herself against the door, over and over. It's really, I mean, unfortunately, all these things she does are very kind of cute and endearing. and make us laugh, which I know is not the right, not the right reaction. But it's hard to not, think she's cute while she's destroying the door. So,
Well, even the video you showed in this was adorable.
I know that's the problem. She gets away with a lot. So no, I think that makes sense. And what about during the day? Like, she's, as I said, she stays outside, a little longer. She usually just likes to sleep outside in the sun.
Hmm.
So do you think we should just keep the day routine, which isn't quite, and work on the bell to come in, but let her go out during the day, and then at night do the leash thing and try to change that routine? Does that make sense? To still let her have her time outside during
Yeah.
the day, so it's not as frequent?
Yeah, I always think if something's not a problem, let's not tweak that yet. Like
Mhm.
that, just let that go and work on the one thing, the morning and evening thing, or
Okay.
you know, where I
And-
always think work on as few things at a time as possible, but do
Okay.
the things you need to do now. So if
Mhm.
it's those two things, let's do that, focus on that. And the other things may work itself out based on those two things.
Okay. Okay. And as I said, we have two sliding glass doors that are basically the same. One here that I showed you, and then one off of the master bedroom. And at night, that other door isn't a problem because we're in here and she can see that. But do you think we should try the bell on? But sometimes during the day, she tries to come in that other door
Mm.
because that's where my office is. Do you think we should try the bells on two doors at the same time, or focus on the one that's more of the problem? The door I just showed you. Does that make sense? Does that
Yeah,
question?
I
Should
think
do two or just one at a time, or just,
I think for her, I would hang up two bells and just train on one of them.
okay.
And
Mhm.
then one day she's going to go to the other bell and ring it, and you're going to go, oh, she knows.
Okay. Okay, that's great. That's helpful. Okay.
Good.
So put the bells on both and train on this one side door that's more of an issue. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. I think we'll definitely um and so what do we do if we're working with the bell and she just comes up and starts slam, if she decides not to use it, if she's getting a little bit used to the bell, but then she decides not to use it and starts body slamming or scratching and not using the bell, how do we respond to that?
Since there's already destruction and you're willing to wait that out,
Hmm.
and if she's not going to throw herself through the glass,
Hmm.
then ideally you would ignore it until she stopped. And then you want to count to like 5 or 10, let her
Okay.
get bored, walk away a little bit, then let her in.
Okay.
So now
Okay.
she's moved on to a new thing in her head. She's
Hmm.
calm. Now she can come in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we haven't wanted to do that because we, are worried about the door, and,
Yeah.
it's just obviously distracting and disturbing to us to have her doing that. But I think at this point, you're right. The destruction has mostly happened. We're not planning to fix it yet. So I think that makes sense, is
Okay.
this all makes a lot of sense. It's definitely, I can see how it's going to take some real consistency. And that's where we've been, we tried for a while to just look through the door and make her sit down outside before we let her in, but it was too hard to be there. And, we weren't very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were busy, we'd just let her in, and so I think this is a great plan. I'm looking forward to working on this. And as I said, I think this is the perfect time because
Good.
we focus on it. So
Good.
yeah.
Good. Well, I can see your wheels turning now. I know you're going to do this well.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I just think it's funny how how we just couldn't think of, I mean, this is why you're the expert and we're seeking your advice because, we just couldn't think of a solution.
Hmm.
There just was no obvious, to me, it's a lot different from teaching a dog to sit or, heel or something like that,
Hmm.
which we did train her to do that and she's decent at it. But this kind of thing, I'm just so, the simplicity of your solutions
Mm.
is wonderful, but
Good, good.
clearly couldn't think of them ourselves. So thank you.
Well, the outside perspective is good
Yeah,
for all of us.
right, right. And it's so great that you have such insight to Huskies because, um, they are just wonderful dogs. I absolutely love them. And not to mention that they're beautiful, but, and when we first got her, they told us that she was a Husky German Shepherd mix,
Hmm.
but the older she gets, we don't see that German Shepherd part. I
Mm.
don't know. We actually think when we look at pictures of purebred, I mean, Huskies, she really looks like a all husky to us. I don't know what you can tell just from the picture, but we
Yeah,
wanted mix because we thought it would sort of soften that husky personality, but I kind of think she's most, if not all, husky. Do you have any sense from looking at the picture
yeah.
what she might be?
Well, and when there's a husky mix, the husky part is so bold in the
Mm.
personality that it kind of takes over. And I think
Oh,
looking at her with the floppy ears, like there's probably something else in there, but that
okay.
husky's so dominant that it just swallows everything else that's there. And a lot of her
Oh, that's,
mannerisms are husky,
yeah.
you know?
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's true of any husky mix, that the husky part typically takes over, very
it
dominant
just
in terms.
it seems like the Spitz breeds in general, like the Chows and Akitas and Huskies, that is
Mhm.
a very dominant trait and
Mm.
personality, and it kind of tends to
Uh-huh.
triumph over
Yeah,
the rest.
right, right.
So, just in my experience, that's what I
Mm.
found.
That's interesting. And is that true in terms of their looks as well, or more just the personality? Because we do think that she looks very husky, except for the floppy ears,
Yeah.
which I think is maybe something else. I've never done the DNA testing of her. I'm very tempted because we're curious, but I just haven't done it. But is that
Yeah.
so? Do huskies take over usually in terms of appearance as well, or more just personality?
I think you can always see it in there, um,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely the personality more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she looks, I mean, when she stood up on the door, she looked exactly like a husky, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we see. We see it. She just seems like all husky to us in terms of looks and personality. But
Yeah.
I am curious, and I may do that DNA test sometime because it just would be fun to see.
Yeah.
The rescue didn't know. They said maybe a German Shepherd, but a lot of times we don't really see that in her
Mm-hmm.
physically. So I don't know. What is the floppy ears? What do the floppy ears suggest to you?
I'll have to think about that. I'll have to
Okay,
look at her again and kind of think
right.
about the personality. But shepherds
Hmm.
have perked ears too, so there's something
Hmm.
with floppy. And if it's a
Yes.
lab, then you're probably not going to see much of the lab temperament under the
Mm.
husky.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows?
Right. No, that's so interesting. I feel like I've learned a lot about huskies that that maybe we should have known before we got one. But as I say, we adore her, and
Yeah.
she is a lot of fun, and just the sort of mischievous nature is really fun to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just,
I call huskies the best worst dog.
oh, that's perfect. That sounds really, yeah,
It's
that's a good
that's
good
it.
description. Right. Right.
All right, Patricia. Well, I'm going to let you go and I'm going to check on you in a couple weeks and just make sure things are making sense and flowing, and but let me know if you have any questions in the process. But
I will. Thank you. This is super helpful, and really, I'm
good,
excited to work on these things, and I think they're really brilliant solutions. So thank you.
good, good. Yay, I think you'll have fun with this.
Yeah, I think
Now that
so
you're a
too.
husky expert.
Right. Getting there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Patricia, it was great to chat with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. This is
Yeah,
wonderful. A lot of
great.
fun.
All right, well, I'll
Okay.
talk to you in a couple weeks. All
Okay. Sounds good.
right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.